Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar on financing your Executive MBA. So my name is Hema Solanki, the Recruitment Associate for the Leadership Program, and I'm joined by my colleague
Greg Moore. I'm the Senior Business Development Manager at London Business School for Degree Programs. Hello and welcome.
Okay, so you've made that crucial decision to embark on the Executive MBA program. And we're going to just walk you through the funding of your fees. Now, these can range from obviously a combination of corporate funding, that's through your employers, educational loans, scholarships, and then personal savings as well. My advice to you is to organize your finance early, because then that is your one box that's ticked, and then you can focus on the actual application and we can work on bringing you on board. And one final point, our applications for the January 2020 intake are open. The next soft deadline is the 8th of October, so it would be great to receive applications by that time frame.
Okay, so as I introduced myself at the beginning of the webinar, I'm the Senior Business Development Manager here, and what that means in my role is that I'm responsible for managing the corporate stakeholders that the school has. We have many employers who choose to sponsor their employees to study our degree programs, including the Executive MBA. Significant portion of students on the Executive MBA will have some kind of financial support from their employer. If not, then some other form of support in terms of additional time, which I'll come back to a bit later. But what I can do, hopefully, in this webinar is give you a bit of insight into how to put together a business case, how to talk to your employer about getting sponsorship, and really how to sort of sell the prospect of you taking some time off to study and what a return on investment that's going to be for your employer. So to kick off, in this slide you can see here, the first point is when you're approaching that conversation with your employer, I think the first thing you want to do is look into the previous history that your employer has in this area. As I said, there are many employers who sponsor students at London Business School, and I'm sure other universities as well. So the first thing you want to be doing is seeing if there is a kind of a precedent set for this kind of thing already, because it might be the case that there is, and there's a very formal and structured process in which you can apply through. If there isn't, then don't give up. I think the next best thing is to speak to your line manager about it. That's probably going to be the first port of call. Quite often, the HR or learning and development staff in an organisation will have an understanding of what the training and development offerings are within the organisation, but you're also going to need the support of your manager to actually get any kind of company support. So this should be the first person you talk to. Once you've got the go-ahead from your manager that they're going to be supporting you, I think next you want to start putting together some kind of business case. And I think it's always good to do this in terms of a written document. It might be that there is an application process within your organization where they have their own forms and documents to complete, but otherwise you can construct your own. And as I say, in the slide you can see ask and persist. So before you start, it's important to remember that this is going to be probably quite a long negotiation process. If there's no current record or history of your organisation financially supporting employees through degree programs, then it's going to probably be quite a challenge and quite a long discussion. But the key is to be persistent and to keep at it. So within the business case, you'll want to present the advantages of studying a degree. You'll also want to talk about how that degree will specifically help your role and your team. Try to communicate the benefits of and the return on investment for your employer. So a high level of research about the program and the school is going to be necessary. Point number 5: if you can't actually get a secure financial contribution from your employer, then I think it's important with the Executive MBA, especially on a part-time program, also our other part-time programs, to have a discussion at least about requesting additional time to study, whether that's time during exam periods to assist with your studies, or perhaps if you're commuting, you might need some additional time. So you're going to need at least the Friday off every other week. So it's important to have that conversation and be upfront about the actual time commitments, the real time commitments needed to study an Executive MBA. Because otherwise, that's either way, that's going to be something a problem you're going to have to approach it at some point. It's probably best to have it early on. And my team, we offer some guidance notes and some advice on how to put these kind of business cases together, how to approach employers. So on our website, in the financing section, you can find these materials. There's an example business case, which should give you some, at least a starting point, and some notes on how best to put that together. So as you can see in the slide, around 30% of the candidates on our part-time programs receive financial support, 20% on our Sloan Masters, which is a full-time program. However, not everybody will be getting financial support, and I think there are a lot of people who perhaps don't even ask. So, as I said, the important thing is to be persistent and to prepare correctly. So, in order to prepare correctly, what do you need to do? First of all, you want to carefully examine your motivations for doing the program in the first place. If you are trying to use the program to make a transition into another career path or another role away from your organization, then I would think twice about asking for financial support. Quite often, when an employer agrees to sponsor one of their employees, they will quite rightly put financial penalties within the contract. So when you actually finish the program, in return for it, you will often have to agree to stay at the company for a certain number of years in order for them to see a return on that investment they've made within you, which is absolutely the correct thing to do from the employer's perspective. So I think you want to really think about what kind of agreements you're willing to make. If you are looking to change jobs, then it's probably best not to tie yourself into anything like this, because it'll only cause problems for you in the future, and you don't want to burn your bridges, really. Particularly if an employer is being very generous towards you, at least with time and things like that. Then I think it would be a bad idea. So think clearly about your motivations, and also how do your motivations benefit the organization rather than just you. It's quite likely that some of the motivations you have will also coincide with that of the organization. So if it can be a mutually beneficial arrangement for you to study this program and you to get a lot of value out of it, chances are then so will your organization. Next, you want to think about how your performance is potential is viewed within the organization. Are you on some kind of senior leadership track, some sort of high potential track maybe? It might be that there's already an education and training and development plan laid out for you within this track. Are you a high performing employee? Have you manage to add a lot of value in your time at the organization, and can you demonstrate this? So I think it's a very good position to be in to approach any kind of negotiations like this from a position of strength, where you have a proven track record that you can say, I've done A, B, and C for this organization. I'd like to take that further, but in order to do that, I think I'm going to need some additional training. Next, you want to think about what kind of learning and development is already offered at your organization. I mentioned this briefly at the beginning of the presentation, but it's a very important thing to consider, because there may be, probably the first question that you will get asked when you approach your manager or HR learning and development team about this will be, have you considered the offerings that we already have, whether that be internal training, or perhaps there is already some external options available which the organization uses regularly. Have you considered these things? So you're going to need to familiarize yourself with the current L&D offering in the very least. Next, I would say try to scope out within your organization, within your immediate network, any potential advocates for you. So is there anyone at your organization who has studied at business school, particularly an LBS alumni? That's going to be my next point. Because I think that getting somebody to sort of back you up internally and add their voice to the negotiation is often a very big help, particularly if, say, it's an alumni who is also a key member of the organization that can demonstrate the benefits of having completed a business school degree. So try to scope that out, see if there's anyone who's willing to speak on your behalf, and that will add some, hopefully add some weight to your argument when approaching this. So just a few words on how do you communicate this to your employer? How do you go about doing it? So first of all, I think you're going to need to research and prepare meticulously, because everybody is going to be different. What might be a potential ROI selling point for one candidate might not be for somebody else. So I would suggest that you speak to our teams here, our recruitment staff like Hema, and come to an information session, speak to alumni of the programs, try to find out which parts of this degree are going to be most relevant for you in your role right now. What's going to be more useful and helpful in terms of filling your skills gaps going forward. Because that way, if you're positioning yourself as actually doing this to sort of add something to your organization, it's going to be a much easier sell than just personal development that may be not so relevant to your role. So a couple of ways in which you can communicate your return on investment. In the slide I've mentioned the learning. So you want to be looking at the actual teaching, who's going to be teaching the courses that interest you, what kind of professors, what's their pedigree, what kind of cutting edge insights are you going to get based on the learning that's most appropriate for your own role. Perhaps you might be looking at a macroeconomy elective as a way to redefine your strategy towards emerging markets. So, as I said, it's going to depend hugely on what your role is and which organization you're working for. But for example, if you're having some challenges with your pipeline, then perhaps it would be more important to mention the electives based around pipeline management. So supply chain management. Sorry. So as I said, tailor it to whatever your role and an organization does. The next thing I would mention is the network. So the fact that you're going to have access to this network of around 45,000 very conscientious and active alumni concentrated in business and finance is going to be a massive boon for your organization. It's a potential way to a potential area in which you can find new customers, you can find new partners, and it's really going to add a lot of value to have access to that network. I think expanding on the breadth and the depth of what a network is like is going to be really useful to you, no matter what role you're in. I think it's going to be beneficial to everyone. So in your business case, mentioning something about the network is going to be a good idea, certainly. Next, the brand. So the London Business School brand holds substantial value. It's certainly relevant in terms of your external visibility. So if perhaps you're an organization that does have a lot of external visibility, it's going to add a lot of credibility to your organization to have staff have LBS degrees because of the reputation that London Business School carries with it. So having a brand section in your business case is going to be crucial as well. So next, how does this align with the context of your organization's talent strategy? So I think you want to look at how does this coincide with what your organization is doing and what they're trying to achieve, because chances are your learning and development team will have their own objectives. It might be retention, it might be transitioning staff from certain areas of the business into other areas, it might be developing new parts of the business of which they'll need skills that perhaps they don't already have, or perhaps it might be succession planning. If there are going to be people leaving the organization, retiring, perhaps they're looking at potential new leaders in the future. So it's important to think, how exactly can I use this to my advantage, and exploring within your organization what the strategy is going forward is going to be helpful as well. And then finally, have you demonstrated due diligence? As I mentioned, the first thing you'll probably be asked is, have you explored the options that are already currently available? How, therefore, do you go about positioning an external option that isn't already available? So I think it's always a good idea to present a range of options for comparison's sake. Particularly trying to plot this onto a value curve would be quite useful, because you can demonstrate the benefits of doing the Executive MBA at London Business School in comparison to other options, and it shows that you're kind of committed and you've thought through this process, and you've thought through the commitment from both yourself and through the organisation, and you might even be able to present various funding models and how you can, how you're proposing to, maybe you're proposing to part fund the program and get a contribution from your employer, which you'll pay back with some years of service. There could be many ways in which a funding model is structured. So it's important to do the due diligence, be upfront about the time commitment, be upfront about the financial commitment that you're making, and that way there'll be no surprises for your employer.
Brilliant. Thanks, Greg, for that. Was a very detailed explanation on how you can approach your company. I'm just going to touch a little bit on the scholarships that we have. It is actually at the moment for the Executive MBA program aimed for women. The reason is that we would like to encourage more women to participate in the program. Currently, we've had the 30% club. Now, this funding it's a partial. It's up to 50% of the fees will be or can be covered by the school. You have to make a separate application for this, aside the actual program application. It is a highly contested scholarship. You have to demonstrate your leadership and the potential that you have and your commitment to supporting success of the EMBA program within the organization and outside. So there are certain criteria that our admission team will look at when considering your application and when awarding it. And in addition to this, we've just had another scholarship that's been introduced to the school. It's called the Laidlaw Women's Leadership Fund. It is very new. It is across the whole LBS. And the EMBA program has become part of that scholarship fund as well. Now this one, it's to support the growth of women in or going into senior leadership. It is for exceptional women, and you are required to demonstrate your financial needs. So my advice is, all you women out there, please look at these scholarship options that we have. They are partial, but they can work for you. Make a strong application that we will definitely consider, and let's see how it goes. So that's something of contention for you. And finally, I am going to talk to you a little bit about Prodigy Finance, which is the educational loans company which has worked very, very closely with LBS students across the board. International company, has so far supported over 14,500 students across 150 nationalities, has been in operation since 2008, so established, pretty well known. Now they use a predictive tool to gauge your earning potential after graduation. So it's not based on current or past earnings. So you should be able to secure a healthy sum. Definitely worth looking at this. So my advice is, please get your funding in place. And for all you women out there, also make a scholarship application. If you are able to secure that scholarship partial funding, then look at it as the bonus. But first and foremost, please do secure your funding so that you can then move forward with the application. We have pretty much covered everything. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have by email. My email address is EMBA at london.edu. If you have any questions for Greg, you can address it to the same email and we will come back to you. Thank you very much for your time and goodbye.